Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at something I think a lot of us kind of wish we did more of sketching, but specifically how taking it outdoors can be like a secret weapon for finding a little more peace in our crazy lives.
Yeah, it's interesting how so many people think, oh, art, that's not for me, I'm not creative. But this article we're looking at today, Nature and Art, Finding Tranquility Through Outdoor Sketching from Irish Heart Mart, makes a really good point that it's not about being some capital A artist.
Right, like I can barely draw a stick figure that looks, well, like a stick figure. But the idea of just getting out in nature and, I don't know, maybe trying to capture some of that beauty on paper, there's something really appealing about that.
Absolutely. And what's cool is it's not just some touchy-feely idea.
Hmm.
Like there's actually research behind this. The article even mentioned some stuff from psychology today about how being out in nature just on its own helps lower stress hormones.
So it's like scientifically proven chill out time. Okay, I'm even more on board now. Lately, things have been so hectic, maybe this is the secret I've been missing.
Well, it might be. The article goes on to say that when you combine being in nature with the act of sketching, those benefits, that stress reduction, it actually gets even stronger.
So, like a double whammy of Zen. I'm in. But how does that work? Is it just being out there, or is there something about the sketching itself that adds to it?
That's the cool part. They break down all these specific benefits that are kind of all linked together. Like, let's start with stress reduction. When you're focused on trying to sketch something, especially outdoors, your mind can't help but be in the moment, right? You're looking at the details, the light, the texture.
Oh, yeah, I get that. Like, even just trying to draw something simple, you notice way more than if you were just glancing at it, right?
Exactly. And all that focus on what's right there in front of you, it helps quiet down that mental chatter, all those worries and to-dos that are usually swirling around in our heads.
Okay, so it's not just escaping to nature, it's like actively engaging with it through the sketching. Almost like meditation, but with a pencil. It makes me think of those times when you're undoing something, you completely lose track of time.
Ah, you're talking about flow state.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're in that flow, you're totally absorbed, worries fade away, there's this sense of joy. And sketching, especially outdoors, can be a really powerful way to tap into that.
Okay, starting to see how the pieces fit together here. So we've got stress reduction, flow state. The article also mentions a creativity boost.
Hmm.
Makes sense, nature's inspiring and all, but how does actually putting pencil to paper make a difference there?
Think about it this way. Our brains are constantly making connections between ideas, experiences, and creative activities like sketching actually strengthen those pathways, make your brain more adaptable.
So it's like training your brain to be more creative overall, not just about becoming a better artist, but a better thinker, period.
Exactly. And what better place to spark that creative energy than surrounded by nature's crazy awesome shapes, patterns, textures, right?
Right. Okay, one more thing from the article that caught my eye. They say outdoor sketching can actually improve your observation skills. Like you literally become more mindful of your surroundings just by doing it. How does that work?
Think about it when you're actually trying to capture something on paper. You have to really see it. The subtle colors, how light filters through leaves, the tiny details. It's like suddenly you're seeing the world with new eyes.
Wow, just thinking about this is already making me feel a little more grounded, like a mini mental vacation.
And that brings us to the last big benefit the article highlights. Mindfulness and presence. Sketching, especially outdoors, forces you to slow down, breathe, just be in the moment.
So what you're saying is even if my sketches end up looking like abstract blobs rather than realistic trees, the process itself is still doing wonders for me.
Exactly. The article is really big on this idea that it's not about the end result, the perfect drawing. It's about the journey connecting with nature, finding your flow, and yeah, finding that sense of tranquility that comes from being totally present.
All right, so we've covered the why this whole outdoor sketching thing is worth trying, but now I'm curious about the how. Like, what do you actually need to get started? I'm looking at the article's essential supplies list here, and honestly, kind of feeling intimidated.
Oh, I get it. It can seem like you need a whole art studio's worth of stuff, but
Yeah.
that's really not the case. The article even mentions a simple pencil and paper can be enough.
Oh, okay, phew. But they also mention a dedicated sketchbook. Is that, like, really necessary? What about all the other stuff? Easels, fancy backpacks, help a newbie out here.
Uh-huh. Well, a dedicated sketchbook is nice, lets you keep all your sketches together and see your progress, but it's not mandatory. And you know what I is essential? The article actually mentions this, a comfy seat.
Okay, that I can get behind. Comfort is key for sure. So let's say we've got our supplies, we're comfy. What's next? Where do we actually go to do this outdoor sketching thing?
This is the fun part. And you
Oh.
might be surprised it doesn't have to be some epic mountaintop view or anything like that.
Wait, really? So my boring little neighborhood park counts?
Totally. The key is finding a spot that you connect with, where you feel that sense of peace. Could be a park, your backyard, even just a window with a cool view. Whatever speaks to you.
That's such a relief. I was picturing having to plan some big expedition just to get started. Location, check. What about the best time of day? Is there like a magic hour for outdoor sketching?
You know, there kind of is. Early mornings or late afternoons are usually ideal. The light is softer then, less harsh shadows.
Ah, the golden hours. Makes sense. Photographers love those times too. Okay, less harsh light, fewer crowds. I'm already feeling more zen just picturing it. So we've got our location, the perfect light. Now what? What do we actually sketch?
Well, the article recommends starting with some warm-up sketches. And no, this isn't like those frantic scribbles you do before a test.
Oh, thank goodness. So what are these warm-up sketches all about then?
Think of it like stretching before a workout. Just loosening up your hand, getting into the flow. Basic shapes, lines, even just scribbling on the page.
Okay, that I can handle. No masterpieces required, just getting those creative juices flowing. Got it. Then what?
Then comes the fun part. Choosing your subject. Look around your chosen spot. What catches your eye? A cool tree, a flower, interesting clouds. Don't overthink it. Go with what sparks your curiosity.
I'm noticing a theme here, letting go of expectations, going with the flow, embracing imperfection. It's very different from how we're usually told to do things.
Exactly. It's not about performance, it's about the experience. And speaking of the process, there's this tip the article gives that sounds kind of technical at first, but it really helps make your sketches more visually interesting. Have you ever heard of composition?
Maybe back in high school art class. My memory's a little fuzzy. Refresh my memory, what is composition and why should I care when I'm sketching?
So composition is basically how you arrange things in your sketch. Like, imagine you're drawing a scene with a big tree in it. That tree could be your foreground, right up close. Then maybe there's a path leading toward it that's your middle ground. And in the distance, some mountains that's the background.
Okay, yeah, I kind of see what you mean. So it's not just randomly putting things on the page, it's about arranging them in a way that makes sense visually.
Exactly. And the cool part is there's no one right way to do it. You can
Yeah.
experiment, play around with different arrangements, and see what looks cool to you.
So we're picking a spot we love, going for the golden hour light, warming up, thinking about composition. Anything else to keep in mind as we head out on our sketching adventures?
There's one more tip I think is super important, especially if you're someone who struggles with perfectionism, which, from what you said earlier, I have a feeling you might relate to.
Haha, you know me too well. Lay it on me. I'm always up for tips on how to quiet that inner critic.
Well, the article really emphasizes this. Embrace imperfection. It's so easy to get caught up in wanting to create some flawless masterpiece, especially with all the perfect art we see online.
Oh, tell me about it. But how do you actually DO that, embrace imperfection? Like easier said than done, right?
It is. But here's a few things to try. First, remember it's about the process, not the product. Your sketches don't have to be perfect. They're just for you. Second, try to actually silence that inner critic. Instead of focusing on what's wrong, look for what you like about your sketch.
Focusing on the good stuff instead of the mistakes. I like that.
Right. And lastly, remember that there's actual beauty in imperfection. Those little quirks, the not quite straight lines, that's what gives your art personality.
That's such a good point. It's like those perfectly posed Instagram photos versus the candid ones that capture a real moment. The imperfections make it more interesting.
Exactly. And there's one more tip that goes along with this whole idea of embracing your own unique style. You're ready for it?
Hit me. The more wisdom, the better.
It's this. Don't compare your sketches to other people's. In today's world, it's so easy to scroll through social media and feel like everyone else is creating these amazing masterpieces while you're just, doodling.
Ugh, yes. The comparison trap is real, especially with art. But how do you actually stop doing it?
It takes practice, but remind yourself that everyone's on their own journey. There's no right or wrong way to sketch, and comparing yourself to others just holds you back from finding your style.
I love that. It's like giving yourself permission to just be creative in your own way without judgment. And, this whole conversation about mindfulness and embracing imperfection, it's really hitting home for me. Remember, I mentioned feeling overwhelmed earlier. A lot of that comes from constantly comparing myself to others, feeling like I'm not good enough.
That's such a common struggle these days. But what if, instead of focusing on what everyone else is doing, we focused on the joy of creating, of expressing ourselves authentically?
That's a huge mindset shift, and I think outdoor sketching could actually help me make that shift. It's not about creating something to impress others, it's about finding peace and joy in the process itself.
Exactly. And that's where the real magic lies. It's
Right.
not about becoming some famous artist. It's about tapping back into that childlike wonder, finding peace in nature, and nurturing your own unique creativity.
I am so inspired right now, ready to ditch the screens, grab a sketchbook, and head out to see the world with new eyes. But first, I think we need a moment to just soak in all this awesome advice.
Hmm.
Then we'll come back and wrap up our deep dive into finding tranquility through outdoor sketching. Okay, we're back, and I gotta say, after all that talk about sketching outdoors, I'm feeling so ready to trade my laptop for a sketchbook and find some sunshine. It's amazing how something so simple can be so powerful, right?
Yeah, it really is. Like we talked about, it's not just about making pretty pictures. It's about tapping into that sense of peace, that mindfulness that we all crave, especially these days.
It's funny, right? We're constantly bombarded with messages telling us to do more, be more, achieve more, and here we are finding solace in something as simple as sitting and sketching. It's like almost rebellious in a way.
There's something to that. It's like we're pushing back against all that pressure, choosing to slow down, disconnect, and just be present with ourselves and the world around us. And sketching gives us a way to do that, a gentle invitation to step out of that doing mode and into a space of just being.
I love that. And speaking of being present, the article talks about those three elements of mindfulness that sketching, especially outdoors, naturally encourages. Could you remind us what those are again?
Oh yeah, definitely. So the first one is deep observation. When you're sketching something, you're not just looking at it, you're really seeing it. The colors, the textures, the way the light hits it, all those details we usually miss in our busy lives.
It's like you're training your brain to actually pay attention, to be more present in the moment.
Exactly. And along with that deeper observation comes breath awareness. The article even suggests taking those deep, slow breaths as you're sketching. Like inhale that peace and beauty, exhale any stress or tension you're carrying.
Ah, so it's like anchoring yourself in the present moment through both that visual focus of sketching AAD, the rhythm of your breath. No wonder it feels so grounding.
It is. And then the third element, maybe the trickiest one, but also the most powerful, a non-judgmental attitude. Letting go of that need for perfection, embracing the wobbly lines and mistakes, realizing that the journey is what matters, not the destination.
Oh man, that's the one I struggle with the most. Like my inner critic is always there, ready to pounce. But I'm starting to see how letting go of that judgment could be so freeing, not just in sketching, but in life in general.
It really is, and that's what the article is pointing to. A path to tranquility and creative renewal through this simple act of sketching outdoors. It's not about being some master artist, it's about the experience itself.
And the best part is, anyone can do it. You don't need any special skills or equipment, just a willingness to slow down, observe, and connect with nature in a new way.
Exactly. Young or old, experienced artist or total beginner, it doesn't matter. This is something everyone can benefit from.
I'm so glad we dove into this topic, definitely leaving with a whole new appreciation for the power of art and nature. Any last words of wisdom before we wrap things up?
I would just encourage your listeners to give it a try. Next time you're feeling stressed, overwhelmed, whatever it is, step outside with a sketchbook and pencil, find a spot that feels good to you, take a few deep breaths, and just spend 5 minutes sketching whatever you see.
I love that. What do you think they might discover during those 5 minutes?
Maybe a sense of peace they didn't know they were missing. Maybe a renewed appreciation for the beauty around them. Maybe even a spark of creativity they never knew they had.
That's a beautiful thought to end on. So to sum it up, outdoor sketching isn't just about art. It's about mindfulness, finding tranquility, and reconnecting with that simple joy of being present in the world.
And hey, you might even end up with some pretty cool sketches along the way.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into outdoor sketching. We hope you're feeling inspired to grab a sketchbook and see the world with fresh eyes. Until next time, happy sketching, everyone!